Good morning, afternoon, evening, night, whenever you're watching this, welcome back to the Mr. Sinn channel. Today we start reviewing Unit 3 of AP Human Geography. As always, if you find value in these topic review videos, consider subscribing and checking out my ultimate review packet in the description down below. To start, we have to talk about what is culture. And to be honest, it's a difficult thing to define. On one hand, we can look at material culture, which consists of items that a person or society has given value to. Here we can look at items that hold importance in an individual's life or items that are important in society. On the other hand, we can look at an individual's or society's non-material culture, which consists of an individual's ideas and beliefs, such as what holidays a person may celebrate or how they celebrate life achievements and milestones, such as weddings, graduations, birthdays, having a baby, or even a funeral. Some of these practices and ideas are unique to the individual, and others are shared practices with people in a society. When trying to remember the difference between material culture and non-material culture, just remember that material culture connects to physical things, often stuff you can buy, wear, or use, while non-material culture connects to shared practices, ideas, or beliefs. Our culture is shaped and formed not only by our own ideas and beliefs, but by society as well. Take a minute and think, how would you describe your culture? What is your non-material culture and material culture? You might find these questions are more difficult to answer than you originally thought. Culture is complex, and it not only resides in us, but it's what makes up the very fabric of our society. Here to help you think about how you could describe your own culture, I'm going to ask some more questions. Just try to think about how these different questions connect to where you live and how they might influence your own culture. When looking at where you live, how do people get around? Do they take public transportation? Do they drive, bike, or perhaps walk? What do the buildings where you live look like? Do you have more modern architecture or perhaps traditional architecture? Do you have more local shops and stores? Does the look of the settlement where you live feel unique, or has it lost some of its uniqueness as more of the landscape has become dominated by big box stores? Is your downtown busy and congested, or is it easy to get to your destination? Do you live in an urban area, or perhaps it's more of a rural area? How is land used, and what is prioritized in your society? Do you have more land being used for recreational activities like parks, or is more of the land set aside for commercial and industrial use? How do people around you generally interact? Do they talk when they pass each other on the street, or perhaps they interact more through technology and stick to their own social group? What languages are spoken where you live? Do people have accents? What do people commonly wear? What music can you hear when walking around? Are certain religions prominent where you live? What statues, monuments, or items are put on display in your society? What food do people typically eat where you live? If you go into a grocery store, what food can you get? Do you have large grocery stores with lots of food? Or do you get your food from a convenience store? Or perhaps a small shop? Is the food more processed, or is it fresh? How does your society view the different sexes? What gender roles are present in your society? When do children become adults? How does your society rank and categorize people? What type of government do you have? What does the government do with the taxes it collects? What do people have to pay for in society, and what does society provide? What does money look like in society? What types of currencies are used? What do schools teach about other cultures, people, and society? What do people do for fun? What jobs are most prevalent in society? What are the social norms that are present throughout society? What is the climate like where you live? What resources are prevalent where you live, and how are they used? How does your society impact the environment, and how does the environment impact your society? All of these questions connect to different aspects of life that shape a person's culture and identity. We can see that we are shaped by the environments in which we live, and in return, we shape the environment. Culture is hard for us to define because it is not made up of just one or two things. It consists of our shared practices, our technology, our attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, architecture, food, and much more. All of these different elements come together to make a culture. And to make it harder to define, we can see that culture is ever evolving. Let me know in the comment section down below how you would describe your culture. It'll be interesting to see what all of you say. Now over time, we see that subcultures can be created within a culture. A subculture is a smaller group within a larger culture. For example, your school probably has a school culture that is unique to your school. But if we look at each individual grade or even each individual class, we will probably find that there are unique cultures that exist within the grades or even the classroom. When we understand our culture, we better understand our own identity. Our identity is shaped by our ethnicity, religion, language, sexual orientation, age, nationality, gender, socioeconomic status, and all the other cultural aspects that surround us. When looking at culture around the world, we can see modern culture or pop culture and also folk culture. Modern culture often originates in more developed countries or regions and often diffuses by hierarchical diffusion. This culture is often more diverse and is made up of many different parts that change over time. On the other hand, folk culture is more homogeneous and often diffuses through relocation diffusion. Family and religion often play a major role in these cultures. We can also look at a subset of folk culture and look at indigenous culture. These are people who originated at a geographic location and are still practicing their beliefs today. According to the World Bank, indigenous peoples are distinct social and cultural groups that share collective ancestral ties to the lands and natural resources where they live, occupy, or from where they have been displaced. Today, folk cultures and indigenous cultures are at risk of being replaced by modern culture, which is one of the reasons why some cultures today will resist modern technology, as it tends to promote modern culture. As the world continues to become more connected, we will continue to come in contact with other cultures around the world. Some of these cultures will be similar to our own culture, and others may be very different. Traditionally, when people interact with different cultures, they tend to practice either ethnocentrism or cultural relativism. Ethnocentrism is when a person views another culture through their own cultural lens. The individual will evaluate and judge the culture by using their own cultural standards. This can cause people to look down on a culture and could possibly lead to xenophobia, prejudice, negative stereotypes, or just a general misunderstanding of the culture. Cultural relativism, on the other hand, is when an individual views and evaluates another culture by using that culture's standards. Here, the individual does not judge the culture based on their own cultural standards. Instead, they try to view the culture through its own perspective, which often allows an individual to gain a better understanding of the culture. Remember, ethnocentrism is when a person applies their cultural standards to another culture, and cultural relativism is when a person views another culture from that culture's perspective. And just like that, the first topic review video of Unit 3 is done. Now comes the time to practice what we have learned. Answer the questions on the screen, and when you're done, you can check your answers in the comment section down below or in the description of this video. Also, if you found value in this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out my ultimate review packet. It's a great resource that'll help you get an A in your class and a 5 on the national exam. As always, I'm Mr. Sinn. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time online.